So good evening and welcome to the third part of the Awaken series. And today we are going to talk about eliminating the false self. And today Jade Fire has given me a number of points that he would like me to discuss. So I'm going to refer to these points very closely. I don't want to miss out on a single one of them. There are many, many points that he has given me. The first one that he would like us to start with is identifying our purpose. So he explains that if we do not know in great clarity what our purpose is, if we have not defined this for ourselves, there will be nothing that we will be able to focus upon. And therefore, when we are proceeding with eliminating the false self, somewhere there will be a lack of focus because we won't quite know why we are proceeding to eliminate the false self. What is the real purpose? And yes, the purpose is enhancement of consciousness and, vibrational increase. All of that is fine. But each one of us has a specific role to play in this time. As he had told us last week, this is by far the most important time that you and I will have ever experienced or shall ever experience. This time that we are going through, that we have been going through for the last many months, is a time of change, but it is a time of creation. In order for it to be a significant time of creation, we need to also destroy something that existed within us before this time. Because if we continue with that, then we are not making space for the change and the creation. So this purpose that Jade Fire is talking about is not necessarily your soul mission. It's not necessarily a purpose that your higher soul has charted out for you. No. He is asking you and I and all of us to identify, determine, and choose our own purpose. What role would you like to play in this time of change, in this time of creation? The choice is yours. Don't get into a mental huddle about, but will this choice be in alignment with my soul mission? Not relevant. There is no choice that you can ever make that is not in alignment with your soul mission. So you don't need, for this purpose, you do not need to know your soul mission. In fact, the power of this choice is being given entirely up to you. And let's take that power in our own hands and let's define that purpose for ourselves. And Jade Fire goes further to say, this purpose could be something that you're already doing. And so your purpose is that I shall continue to do this, and in fact, even increase my area of influence. Or it could be something that you are choosing that is entirely new, which you may not have tried before, but which your inner being is urging you to take up as a purpose. So the first thing we do in this week is identify that purpose, because then the elimination of the false self makes sense. Why are we eliminating that false self? And what about that false self are we eliminating? He asks us then to stop hiding. And I found this extremely interesting when he made me write down, stop hiding. What does this mean? How are we hiding? We are hiding behind our old beliefs that we are unable to make a difference in this world. We are hiding our light. We are hiding our divinity. And when we do that, when we resort to hiding, the false self becomes even stronger, because the false self, what is the false self? That which is not you. And that false self becomes stronger when you choose to hide. So ask yourself this week, am I choosing to hide out of fear, out of self-doubt? Am I not giving myself the permission to be and express my divinity because I am unsure of whether my friends, my family, society will accept that from me? What is your reason for hiding? Why are you not coming out in a far bigger manner? Why are you not allowing people to see who you really are? Why are you not allowing your light to shine bright? So stop hiding, because when you hide, that false self is only getting stronger. Another interesting thing that he says is, know about your world. And I kind of smiled when he said this, because he went on to explain, and it fit with me so much. You see, for a very long time now, I have stopped reading the newspapers. I do not want to sit in front of a TV set and watch people shout and scream at each other or denigrate someone else. Yes, I do keep in touch with the news by following it maybe online on my phone, but in a limited manner, not in the way I used to follow it some years ago. And Jade Fire completely disagrees with this. And he says, stop doing that. Know in detail about your world. If you don't know in detail about your world, what role are you going to play to change it? Because then what you know about your world will be a general idea, not something specific. But he explains, when you know about your world, when you read about it, when you hear about it, in fact, even when you discuss it with people, this gives you the opportunity to rise above the judgment of your false self. This is a challenge, because the reason why I stopped reading the newspapers and hearing the news was because I would instantly be sucked into judgment mode. I would be angry or I would criticize. And he explains that by doing this, by stopping to read the newspapers or not discuss the news, what you're really doing is you are not challenging yourself to rise above your false self. So challenge yourself. Learn to read the newspapers with detachment. Watch the news with detachment. Observe. Be a spectator. Now, when you observe, when you are a spectator, when you are detached, and you hear about an event, you might choose to make that event your purpose. You might choose to bring about a change that is required so similar events cannot take place. But he explains, if you hide yourself and you do not allow yourself to be in awareness of all the facts, then what you do is you are attempting to change the world in a very general manner. And yes, it will work, but it will take a very long time. But if you know your world, and for each one of us, a certain event will hit us more strongly than it might hit someone else. If it hits you strongly, then this is your opportunity to stop hiding. Now, you can attempt to change this event by being proactive, by joining a group that is trying to make things better. You can, in fact, use spiritual means to shift things around. That choice now becomes yours. So you see, in this particular week, Jade Fire is demanding that we take up the reins of our power. And we take it up in a very, very forceful, emphatic manner. So let's know about our world. The more we know, and the more we remain detached, in spite of that knowing, the less shall be the influence that the false self shall exert upon us. So it's time for us to stop hiding in more ways than one. We have to stop hiding our own light, and we certainly have to stop hiding from what is happening in this world in a very, very clear, specific manner. Once we do this, he says, that's the time you can take up your unique kind of leadership. And again, he reminds us of what he told us last week. A leader is not one who says, follow me. I am the leader. I am the boss. No, the leader says, let me go first and clear up all the thorns and rocks so that you can follow. Now you can be that leader in any manner of your choosing. But for that, you have to stop hiding. You have to have identified your purpose. You have to know very clearly, very specifically, in depth, what is happening in our world. And only then can you exert that leadership. Now, that leadership could be a quiet gentle leadership. That leadership could be a forceful leadership. Your kind of leadership is entirely unique to you. Do not compare it to someone else. In fact, when you choose to take a back seat, when you choose to let someone else take the reins of your life, when you choose to allow someone to be dominating over you, then your false self is exerting itself. It is time for you to take up your leadership. And this can only happen in small steps, especially if you have not taken up leadership earlier. Again, I repeat, a leader is not necessarily one who comes out in public and has a lot of people listening to him or her. No. By sitting in your home and talking to a few people every day, making someone else's mindset change from scarcity to abundance, from separation to oneness, you are taking up leadership as well. But you have to identify your purpose. You have to be ready to stop hiding. You have to teach yourself to be detached, even when you hear about things happening in the world, because only then can you be the leader who will clear up the path for others to follow. In all of this, Jade Fire says, if you are not uncomfortable, then you are not doing your purpose. And he says, right now is the time of such huge change. So much of the change is being termed as an upheaval, that if you are to follow your purpose, your chosen purpose, with the fullest of integrity, you will be uncomfortable. You and I are used to living within the structure of our false self. Our comfort zones are so important to us. We don't want to shift out of those comfort zones. We want to continue to be there so that we don't get anxious, so that we don't get scared, so that we don't get embarrassed, so that we don't receive disapproval from people. But Jade Fire says, if you are not uncomfortable, you are not eliminating the false self. The level of your comfort shows how deeply rooted you are in your false self. The level of your discomfort shows how much of a movement you have made away from your false self. So let's not try to be comfortable. Let's be uncomfortable every day. Let us, you and I, decide on one thing. Let's do something, whether it is an action, whether we change the way we are thinking, whether we speak to someone we do not like, whether we listen to a TV show which is making us angry. Whatever it is, let us every day choose one thing that makes us uncomfortable. And it will continue to make us uncomfortable till we have shifted out of the false self. So do something every day. You will find that discomfort soon becomes your greatest friend. The more uncomfortable you are, the more you know you are taking the right steps to eliminate the false self. It is in this discomfort that you will open yourself to learning. Learn even what you believe you already know. But listen to someone else speak about that subject. Read another book about that subject. Watch another movie about that same subject. Don't shut the doors by saying, oh, I know all about this. As soon as you do that, you stop another perspective entering you. And that perspective could be exactly what you need as a trigger to move away from the false self. So be open to change, be open to learning. Whenever there is an opportunity that comes to you, and in today's world, the opportunities for learning are so immense. And I am not here referring only to spiritual learning. I am talking about learning on all levels, whether it is something academic, whether it is a hobby that you learn, whether it is a craft or a skill that you learn about. Learn. There is nothing that you learn which will not enhance your consciousness. So be open to learning. That learning makes you shift. That shift helps you to align yourself with this time of creation, with this time of change, with this time of upheaval. Then he said something which was extremely important for me. And he said, create and hold a space for yourself and for others. Create and hold a space of possibilities. And I asked him to elaborate on this. And what he said was so profound. He said, if you are not ready in all situations to create and hold a space of possibilities, your false self will instantly jump to only one possibility. And very often that possibility is like a dire consequence or a negative possibility. If you learn to detach, which is so important because he has already told us, sit and read the newspapers, watch the television shows, learn to do this in detachment. If we can do that, then we can move into this space. And then in that space of detachment, we create and we hold a space of possibilities where we suddenly realize that every situation has so many possible eventualities that X situation does not necessarily have to, for example, result in a war, or result in bloodshed, or result in famine, or result in corruption. But when we don't create and hold a space of possibilities, then we allow the false self to instantly take our minds to just one, and then it's not even a possibility. We believe that that is the outcome. And when hundreds upon thousands of us believe that that is the outcome, then we energize that outcome with our focus and with our attention. And the more of us who believe in that outcome, the quicker shall that outcome come to our doorstep. But when you and I can remain detached, can learn to remain detached, we can create a wonderful circle of energy around us. And in that energy circle, we allow the authentic self, the self of spirit, we allow that authentic self to bring to our conscious awareness the different possibilities, the different endings, the different outcomes. And now suddenly I am faced not with one outcome, but with, let us say, 4. And then I choose which outcome I wish to energize. And for this, he has said, this becomes so much more profound, it becomes easier, and it becomes more empowered when we come together in groups. So I urge you, friends, create small or big groups. Keep in touch on a very, very regular basis, if not on a daily basis. When there is a situation, discuss that situation. First, discuss the facts and figures of that situation. Don't hide from those facts. What are the facts? Not what does the media want you to know as the facts. Make an attempt to find out the facts. And in this, let me make things a little clear. When we operate from our false self, and we have already decided upon that one outcome, you will find it amazing. The news items that you read, the TV shows that you watch, the videos that come forwarded to you shall be those that you are attracting to you to support that outcome that you have already decided. Yes, you are attracting those videos, those programs, those news items. You are attracting them to you. So now you have chosen that one outcome. You are attracting news items to you. That outcome is getting only stronger with your focus and with your attention. And there are hundreds upon thousands like you focusing on that one outcome. How can that outcome not be? But when you and I can step back and hold that space. Guys, this is that important word that Jade Fire has used. Create and hold the space. And he says, not only for yourself, create and hold a space for yourself and for others. So when you talk to others, hold that space and gently allow yourself, again, stop hiding. Allow yourself to talk about more positive outcomes. You are not being blind to the dire consequences. I am not asking you to wear rose-colored glasses. But for me, this one point of Jade Fire was just a tremendous aha, because I realized that I fall into this trap. When I hear something or I read something or I'm watching something, my mind has already decided on the outcome. My mind has already judged. I have not created a space of possibilities at all. And so those possibilities that do exist, I am unaware of them because I have closed my mind, because I am being ruled by the false self. This is going to take time and effort and diligence on our part. Allow the inner being to reveal to us the different possibilities. He gave me an example. And he says, think of it as getting onto a train. You see the station, you hear the sounds, you hear the raucous noise, you hear people shouting and screaming. You see two people are fighting over a seat. You are trying to get place to put your luggage. And when you sit down in your seat, you have already decided, this is my destination. But he says, is that the only possibility? It's the possibility you have chosen, but is it the only one? There is a possibility that you could get down 3 stations before your destination. There is a possibility that you sit in your seat and you decide, I don't want to take this journey, and you actually leave the train even before the train starts. There is a possibility that the tracks ahead have a problem and your train is diverted somewhere else. But when you sit in that seat, you have not even considered any of these possibilities. For you, the possibility is only one. Now, yes, it works when you and I are taking a train journey, but it doesn't work in life. In life, when we are seated in that train, we need to allow ourselves to think of the possibilities so that we can take on the role of the driver and drive the train where we wish it to go. But we can only know that when we have actually seen all the possibilities. And then we make an intelligent, educated choice. You see how in every step this week, Jade Fire is taking the situation and putting it in your hands and saying, you have the power. But you do not exercise that power because that power is hidden behind the false self. And he repeats here what he spoke of last time. And he made me write this down. We are each other. And he said, here is the time now to reappraise this word, I. Let's review who is this I? Who is I? The I of the false self is the persona, the thoughts, the beliefs, the attitudes, the possessions, the relationships, the career. And this I of the false self cannot create a space where anyone else can come in and say, I am you. Because the false self can only exist when I continue to believe, when I continue to live with the belief that I am not you. And Jade Fire has made me write this down. We are each other. It is time for the I to become a much, much wider concept, a much wider meaning, a much wider definition. So that when I say I, that I always includes everyone else in that I. Because even when we speak, as soon as we say you and I, in that speaking, I am making myself separate from you. Now, I have to use the word I. It's I and I. We've got to make I an extremely all-encompassing word. Unless we are able to see and believe and live that we are each other, we will not be able to come out of that circle of scarcity mindset, separation, scarcity mindset, separation. Jade Fire tells me, he says, whenever there is a situation that has been dealt with from the space of separation, the outcome of that situation is always a failure or a defeat. You may not feel that it's a failure or a defeat for you, but someone else will feel that. And so that outcome will always have a degree of failure and defeat. Failure and defeat increases the strength of the scarcity mindset. Because each time I fail, each time I feel defeated, I want to take more in order to protect myself. So my scarcity mindset gets strengthened. When scarcity mindset gets strengthened, separation is strengthened. And we are stuck in that loop. And all because the word I means only the persona, means only me, means only mine. To eliminate the false self, slowly but surely, you and I will have to move away from you and I and live in the fullness of the wisdom that we are each other. And he goes on to say something really beautiful with this he says, when you know that we are each other, you will stop acting the way you do to others. You will act the way you would act to yourself. So he says, when you know that we are each other, the words of abuse shall not be spoken. Because would you speak those words to yourself? Will you call yourself those harsh, abusive names? Actions of dishonesty, actions of cruelty, actions of harshness will not take place. Because would you do that to yourself? Will you take a knife and jab it into you? When we know we are each other, the question we shall ask ourselves constantly is, would I say this to myself? Would I do this to myself? Would I act like this with myself? Yes, I know you and I are still a long way from that 100% living knowledge that we are each other. But can we not at every moment at least be aware of this one question? Would I do this to myself? Would I say this to myself? If we can step back from our reactions just long enough to ask these questions, we shall move that much closer to the living knowledge that we are each other. And then he moves on to, from here, and he brings about a wonderful play on words. And he made me write this. You may not be identical, but you have the same identity. And I love this sentence. I love this. You may not be identical, but you have the same identity. We have chosen to live in a world where we are not identical. And that is the glory of being a human being, that we are not identical. There are worlds out there where everything is identical. You and I chose the excitement and the adventure and the thrill of being different. But in being different, we forgot that we have the same identity. In being different, we began to believe that we are separate. And we are not. We are different, yes. We are not separate. We are identical, but we have the same identity. There is no difference between your God self and mine. There is no difference. It all just appears different because we've chosen this wonderful game on earth where everything looks different. You know, when I was young, I used to love that. I've been trying to find the word and I haven't been able to, it's gone blank, where I would turn them and those glass pieces would fall into the most beautiful different patterns. And at no point would one pattern ever be the same as the other. And that is life on earth. We fall into little pieces like beautiful colored glass, and we create these outstandingly beautiful patterns. But at the end of the day, as soon as you turn it, you realize that that pattern was just an illusion, and some other pattern has come in that is equally beautiful, equally beautiful. And he says, when you know that your identity is the same, the judgment of the false self, the harsh judgment of the false self, the harsh opinion of the false self begins to vanish. And here Jetfire's voice became so soft and so tender and so loving and so kind. And he said, beloved, everyone wants the same thing. From that hardened criminal to you, everyone wants the same thing. They want love, they want tenderness, they want to belong, they want someone to belong to them, they want to experience kindness, they want to be forgiven, they want to be released from their guilt. Everyone wants the same thing. And when you and I can see that, we shall have within us the heart that embraces instead of judges. A heart that does not feel anger, because even when we see the most negative situations, we shall be able to ask ourselves, but what do I want? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Because we are each other. And when you and I can ask that question, not why is he doing this? Why is she doing this? Why am I doing this? The right answer shall come from your soul, because your soul is one soul. And only then can we proceed to make a change. How can you and I make a change when we are caught only in the false self? That false self has created the crime and the corruption and the dishonesty and the hatred and the war and the bloodshed. How can we find an answer from the same place? How? And when I was writing this, I had tears running down my face. Because for the first time, I think, I saw a criminal as a human heart. As a human heart. And Jetfire says that is the truth. That is the truth. And when I was sitting and looking at these points and thinking about everything that Jetfire had spoken to me today, I remembered reading some time ago, I don't remember the book, but I remember reading the book of Neil Donald Walsh. And he says, to tell the truth is to tell the truth to yourself about yourself. To tell the truth is to tell the truth to yourself about another. To tell the truth is to tell the truth about yourself to another. To tell the truth is to tell the truth about another to the other. When I continue to tell the criminal that you are horrid, that you are vicious, that you're dishonest, that you are worthy of a life sentence, that you should be killed, I am not telling the truth to the criminal about who he or she is. Maybe, friends, that is why our prisons haven't worked. Our justice system hasn't worked. Our prisons and our justice systems reiterate to them who their false self is. Our justice systems and our prisons do not affirm for them the truth about who they are. Because we don't want to tell that truth. We don't want to tell that truth. And JF ends with a beautiful exercise. And he asks us to create heart circles. Heart circles. Every day. I know your mind is going, like my mind did, is going to creating a heart circle with your friends and your family and your loved ones. And he says, no. Create heart circles with those you detest, with those you despise, with those you hate, with those you condemn, with those you scorn. Create heart circles with them. And every day, look at each one of them. Not the face. Look at their identity, which is the same as yours. And then give them each a smile of recognition, a smile that says, hey, I belong to you, you belong to me, we are each other. And then he says, open your heart and touch them. Touch them. The importance of a touch filled with love must never be underestimated. Your love will reach them. And if you do this every day, and if you do this with full integrity, and if you do this from the space of your authentic self, your love will touch them. And there is no change that cannot be wrought by love. And I asked him, I said, but why can we not have a heart circle also with our friends and our family? And JF smiles and says, because your family is the world. If you still look at your 2 children and your husband and your sister and your niece and your nephew as your family, then, beloved, he tells me, you haven't heard what we have said. Who is your family? And he says, talk to this group about family. When you are sitting with friends and with family over a dinner, chatting, enjoying, having that food that you are lapping up, is there any thought of, let me take more in my plate so that my sister has less? Is there any thought of, oh, I'm going to hide this so that my son cannot see it? In fact, what do? You take it from your plate and give it to the other. Where does the scarcity mindset go then? And he says, can you not see that where there is love, scarcity mindset just disappears? And if you could expand that love to the world family, can you not see that scarcity mindset would disappear, separation would disappear, that even though not identical, you would all be the same identity and you would live in this knowledge? And then you would realize that just as you are not separate from each other, you are not separate from God. That you are God, that you are God. I is God. I that includes the millions and millions and millions on this earth, that is God. Let us worship that God. The false self believes in religion. The authentic self discards it because it knows that there is no separate God to worship. The God to worship, to adore, to revere, to love is the I that includes every single person. So this week, dear friends, you and I are going to create our heart circles. And we are going to bring in all those whom we do not like. And let's be honest about this. Whether it is a person, whether it is Someone you know, someone you don't, whether it is a community, whether it is a race, whether it is a color. Bring them into your heart circle. Look at them. Look deeply. Spending time looking at them. It's only when you spend some time looking at them that you will be able to see that identity, the I-dentity. And then smile in recognition. And then touch. Touch with your heart filled with love. Love for who? There is no other. That heart circle is you. Everyone in that heart circle is you. So look at yourself, smile at yourself, and touch yourself with love. I love I.